Alright, yeah, welcome to Magic Duels. This is Super Man here. I'm going to walk you through the deck tech for our Ulamog ramp deck. So, you're probably thinking, why would you call it an Ulamog ramp deck? Well, all this deck does is ramp into Uli over here. And it does it quite efficiently, I might say. And you might think to yourself, well, if you're relying on one creature to win, doesn't getting rid of it rely on a bit of a blowout? Not entirely. It does, but you're gonna find ways to bring it back and reanimate it and send it away. And it's just when the engine's going, it's gonna be really difficult to remove him. So we're just gonna start at the beginning. How does this deck keep going? Well, it relies heavily on life gain. So Jaddy Offshoots, gain 1 life whenever a land enters the battlefield. It's a nice blocker for aggro decks as well. Our other life gain includes a retreat from Kazandu. So we do use both modes on this. If for some unforeseen circumstance Ulamog gets removed, we've got From Beyonds to gain as tokens and our little creatures. So we're going to get +1/+1 counters on them. Hopefully go wide and deep. And the main reason for this is to gain the 2 life though. So Sylvan Ranger, great for ramp. Only put 2 in. The key to this deck really is to keep the creature count low. Because there's a lot of languishes and stuff like that. And a lot of creature removal. And the thing is, with this ramp deck that relies so heavily on one creature, you want to sort of efficiently get your Ulamog off Evolutionary Leap right here. So pay 1, sacrifice a creature, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature, put that card into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So Evolutionary Leap's going to be spending very little to sack off these tiny creatures to go get our big creature, which is Ulamog. So more ramp speaks for itself. There's only a 1 of. I didn't feel the need to have more Pilgrim's Eyes. I thought 3, when it comes to sacking creatures off, was a little expensive. I put 1 in just as a contingency plan, just in case we're playing against a lot of flyers, you know. The one-off chance that it's really useful, for example. Moving on, we've got Nissa, Vastwood Seer. Yeah, again, another bit of land ramp. So when she enters the battlefield, she's going to thin our deck, grab as a forest and put it in her hand. And if we've got 7 or lands after we've played our lands, then we get to flip her transformed into Nissa Sage Animus. She gains us a lot of card advantage. She ramps for lands if it's a land, or she gets us closer to our Ulamog. Very rarely, but sometimes we try and get the legendary 4/4 with a -2 ability. And fairly often we do their ultimate. It happens quite a lot when we've blown out the board quite considerably and they don't really want to attack into us because we've got loads of scions and stuff like that. So it sometimes happens that we get to untap 6 lands. Hopefully we get to see it in the games. Moving on. We talked about the retreats. So complete disregard. In this format there's a lot of reanimate cards and stuff like that. We don't want to see a lot of our creatures coming back. So a really cheap cost removal spell. I find it quite really effective, especially against aggro decks and the red-white aura deck, which is really infamous for just stacking loads of auras onto double strike creatures and stuff like that. You can exile them before they get the enchantments and really just blow them out, essentially, because they've just emptied the hand, putting all these auras on, and then you just destroy it. Natural Connection, another bit of actual land ramp instead of just land thinning. It's only a 2 of, because I felt that the main downside of this deck is sometimes all you draw into is land ramp. And this is just one that gets 1 land. It's not very useful. It's occasionally useful for retreats, triggers, but other than that. One of the key pieces to our deck is Reanimation. So, Pulsar Marasa, there's another choice of Reanimate, and I'll go into it a little bit later once we've got to that, but return target creature or land from graveyard, its owner, you gain 6 life. Yet again, crucial, we gain that 6 life, and we get to pull our Ulamog back, or even our Green Warden. The fun little combo with the Green Warden and Marasa. Where is he? There he is. Green Warden can pull any card back from the graveyard when he enters the battlefield. If he's to die, we don't exile him. Instead, when he gets killed, we pull some Marasa, back the Green Warden. When Green Warden resolves and enters the battlefield, we pull the pulse back, and we're gaining 6 life every single time they kill off our Green Warden. So he's really efficient. And anytime we want to just cut off that little combo, we can, and it's fine. From Beyond, another key piece. It's not essential, but it's really useful. Beginning of your upkeep, put a 1/1 colourless Eldrazi Scion token onto the battlefield. It has sacrifice this creature, add 1 colourless to your mana pool. Useful. If Ulamog gets destroyed, this is a key part in winning, essentially. Get all these Scions and just hope to swing wide. If you've lost your Ulamog, it's quite a slim chance you're going to win with this deck. So it's crucially important to have a contingency in plan. So if they're going to Oblivion Strike your Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger, you've got to make sure that you can remove it from the battlefield and get it back whenever's convenient. The other ability for this is pay 2, sacrifice it, and search your library for an Eldrazi card. There's only 2 Eldrazi in this deck, so it's never going to be used so often. Most of the time you want to evolutionary leap into Ulamog, but sometimes when it's not going your way, you can use the From Beyond, grab the Ulamog, and then swing back with him. Languish, our premium creature removal spell. All creatures get -4/-4. This hits so many cards that it's just an auto include. Life is just such a fragile thing, of course. Elves decks, ramp decks, you know, allies decks, everything gets hit with Languish. You'll see it a lot. Yet again, Green Warden can pull back this, and you can do it twice. They never expect a Languish to come back out the graveyard, so it's really key. Oblivion Strike, only a 1-of. Considered putting more in, but we have got a lot of removal, and this one's more expensive and sorcery speed. The sorcery speed's a bit of a deal breaker for me. Maybe consider putting more in if you build this deck yourself. It's up to you, tweak it however you want. Exile target creature. If they Ulamog me, I Oblivion Strike them back, and we're all fine and dandy. Exile that creature, it's not coming back, so if it's any graveyard shenanigans, automatically gone out of the picture, no need to worry about it. If you've got evasive creatures though, that's the downside. So land creatures, for example, this is never going to hit unless they're reacting to something you're doing, and, you know, they just so happen to keep that land onto the battlefield. But it's good. It's good. Explosive Vegetation. I think this speaks for itself, really. Search your library for 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. Best ramp card ever. This used to be Monvuli Acid Moss, which I did prefer a lot. This deck was a lot more efficient with that in, and I never minded it being used against me, because it used to destroy a land and then give you a land. It didn't ramp as fast, but there was a lot of aggro decks and, you know, multicoloured decks, like Converge-based stuff, that just folded under that Acid Moss. But we have the Vegetation now, so we actually get to Ulamog and our big creatures a lot quicker. So, in a way, it's good. It's good. Unholy Hunger. Destroy target creature. Instant speed. Lots of wonderful uses for this. Gains life, yet again. Big life gain theme. We want to stay alive for as long as possible, because our win con is so late in the game that we need to stay alive for that. Necromantic Summons. I used to have a lot more of these in, but when the Pulse of Marasa came by, I just kind of felt that it was a lot better. It was instant speed, it gained us life, you know. Necromantic Summons is a 1-of in here, mostly because if they play a creature I really like, I want to kill them with it. Because I can return a creature card from any graveyard under my control. And Spell Mastery, by this point as well, Spell Mastery is more than likely online, so whatever creature they had is now a lot bigger than they ever played it with, so it's great. Also gets us back our Ulamog as a 12/12. You'll very rarely see me, or when you're playing with this deck, if you choose to do so, you'll very rarely use Ulamog to do actual damage win con. So the spell mastery for an Ulamog Resurrection is largely irrelevant, which is why it's so low in the cost, only one of. Because we're really never gonna do creature damage of any sort. Green Warden, Omni Tool of this deck, grabs us all of our useful items, our languishes, our creature ramp if we're not far enough in. Pulse and Marassa, so we can do our little Green Warden Marassa combo. Absolutely fantastic. Exile him at any point we want as well. Return a creature card. So if we're in dire need and we don't have a way to bring back the Green Warden at that particular point in time, we may choose to exile him so that we can get a key card back in time. It could be an Oblivion Strike, for example. Or it could be, I don't know, just creature ramp in general. Oblivion Sower. So I felt this was an auto-include when you have an Ulamog deck, because he's got a fun little combo alongside him. So when you cast Oblivion Sower, target opponent exiles the top 4 cards of his or her library. Then you may put any number of land cards that player owns from exile onto the battlefield under your control. Now, if you've just attacked with your Ulamog, they've just exiled 20 cards off the top of their library. This is a great way to get a player to fold and scoop up. Because if you play this after an Ulamog, you've got a lot of lands. And if you've got, for example, where is it? A Retreats, where you're gaining 2 life off of every land, or a Jaddy Offshoot, where you gain 1 life off of every land. 24 cards worth of exile is going to get you a lot of lands into exile. So when Ulamog comes down, and Oblivion Soul comes down after, you're going to gain a lot of life. And by that point, you've gained so much life that there's nothing really they can do about it. And if it so happens that they get rid of your Ulamog, you've got an absolute metric ton of life to just absolutely just figure out how you're going to go wide or go deep and kill them. You've got so much time. Nissa's Renewal, final piece of the puzzle. Search your library for up to 3 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield, gain 7 life. Yet again, gaining loads of life. Usually by the time Ulamog comes down, if you're doing well, you're at about 30 life at that point. So when they see an Ulamog and you're at 30 life, you've won at that point. Some people like to stick around though, and that's when you kind of sandbag them and run them into the ground with an insane amount of life gain, but it's up to them if they want to stick around. And here's the big Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger. When you cast Ulamog, exile 2 permanents. He's got indestructibility, and when he attacks, this is the key, defending player exiles the top 20 cards of his or her library. So this is our win con. We're going to mill them out. It's a mill deck. It kind of looks like it's going to ramp into big, hefty, damage-building creatures, and that may come across as the opponent that that's what you're planning to do, but it's really not. This is a mill deck. Which is strange when they don't see blue. They never consider the fact that they're going to get milled out. So a lot of them draw loads of cards, and you know, the kind of stuff that they wouldn't do if any of the mill cards were in play. Sphinx's Tutelage, sorry, I had a bit of a brain fart there. Indestructibility means that most creature removal's not getting rid of this. And Oblivion Strike is what you really want to watch out for, because that's just the end for Ulamog. His exile 2 permanents though is really useful. You can exile 2 lands and cut them off of a colour. If you're worried about an Oblivion Strike, you could kill all the black sources, for example. I wouldn't rely too much on killing the black sources to not expect an Oblivion Strike though, because if they have got a swamp and an Oblivion Strike in the hand, you've just lost your Ulamog and likely just lost the game. So that's pretty much the deck. Onto the lands. Nothing much to see here really. 6 swamps and 10 forests. You want more forests because most of the deck is ramp, therefore much of the deck is green. The rest of the swamps can be grabbed with your ramp. You know, it speaks for itself. Hissing Quagmire. good dual land, good blocker as well. Most people fear the Hissing Quagmire, rightly so. It can, with 3 mana, become a 2/2 black-green elemental creature with Death Touch. It doesn't really go into combat too much, but when it does, it's mostly just to stop like pesky 1/1s and people from swinging in with their big creatures. You just leave this guy up and threaten the destruction of their big creatures. Really slows them down, puts the fear of God into them, you know. Woodland Cemetery speaks for itself. Comes into tapped unless you've got a swamp or a forest. You've likely got one or the other with the amount of ramp you're doing. 1 Mortuary Mire. Now, I didn't like the idea of having tapped swamps. I thought they were a really bad idea. I used to have more before the Oath of the Gatewatch update, where we had better lands and, you know, better ways of getting back creatures. So it's actually only a 1-of. May consider cutting this. Doesn't do a great deal. I mean, you get your landfall trigger off it, and you can maybe get your Ulamog back out the graveyard. Doesn't see much play, but you know, what can you do? And just 2 Foul Orchards. You just want your dual lands, really. Maybe even consider cutting these, because there's no way you can fetch them out. Back in before the update, when we had Gatecreeper Vine, and these used to be Guild Gates, that's the reason these 2 are still in here, actually, because I just never removed them after that. So they used to be Guild Gates, and my Gatecreeper Vine could grab them, you know, if turn 2, you know, or turn 3, sorry, and you have nothing to do. Gatecreeper Vine, grab the Vine, tap land, you know. Most efficient time to play Guild Gates when you got nothing to do, so, you know. Alright, I hope you like the deck. If you like the deck, be sure to check out the matches that should be following. Alright, thanks very much. I'll see you guys next time.